20 minutes after 11 o'clock. I had a criticism on one of our YouTube podcasts of these interviews. The criticism said the interviewer obviously didn't read the book. And I had to write back. I said, well, yeah, I didn't read the book. But at the same time, I did have the author on the phone. And the author, and we can't read them all. I do my best. And the next book, I absolutely read the entire book. It's like 6,000 pages long. No, I'm teasing. It is a big book, though. It is a big book. Alan Hall wrote this book. It's called The Socionomic Theory of Finance. It's written by Robert Prechter. But Alan Hall is a senior analyst at the Socionomics Institute. I think I have that right. He's a contributing author to the upcoming book called Socionomic Studies of Society and Culture. He's a staff writer for the Socionomics Institute's monthly magazine. He's an advisor to senior United States military leaders on how social mood can forewarn of the risk of epidemic disease. But the reason you're going to stay tuned is because this is about baseball.
Yes, sir.
Now, all of a sudden, it all comes together and makes sense. Is there a connection between home runs and the stock market? Alan Hall, fun idea for a topic. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. It's great to be here, Larry and Robin. Thank you for having me on.
Are you obviously a baseball fan?
Well, I do enjoy baseball, but I'm not a fanatic. So I'm more of a social mood expert, not a baseball expert.
Really?
And I know a little about the game, but not so much last night's game, except for right now because there's so much excitement about it.
Can a person be affected by the social mood, or can we be separated from it, or is that our choice?
You're always affected by it. Individuals are to some degree, but they're free to act in opposition to it and do their own thing. But when you look at the center mass of society and where it's going and where it's, how it's feeling about the future, most importantly, whether it's optimistic or pessimistic or confident or fearful, when you look at that center mass, the aggregate behavior, which we think is best reflected in the stock market, then you get a better sense of where we're all going together.
Okay, and that's the connection between baseball and the economy.
Well, yeah, but it's not so much the economy. It's the stock market. The stock market is more than just a financial record. It's a record of decisions, and so it becomes a psychological meter. What we call a sociometer, a reflection of society's mood.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm going to give a little scenario, see if I can maybe put this into terms that I will understand it better. Let's say I'm a kid. Let's say I'm a teenager, and I'm living at home, and my dad is not in a good mood. He's in a bad mood, and my mom is just reacting to it too, and you can just feel this cloud over the whole home, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I hate when he gets this way, blah, 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 blah. Now, all of a sudden, it's a TV show, and it's distracting me, and it's just fun, and I'm like so happy, and it is, in our world, is baseball that powerful? Can baseball... If it's happy times, if baseball is happy times, and the president, and I'm not picking on Trump, I'm just saying the president, regardless of who it is. But if the president is casting the grumpy dad mood around the whole country, just as in my story, it was the whole home, and the TV with the silly show is baseball in the real world, I mean, is it that powerful?
Well, here's the thing. Most people think that events affect the social mood. And our theory is the opposite. Social mood determines the tenor and character of social events. So, sure, a baseball game can get somebody emotionally excited, and they love to see home runs, and they get all excited, but that's emotions. They are aware of those emotions. This social mood that we're talking about is much more subtle. It's underlying. It is largely unconscious. People don't understand really why they're feeling the way they are, but they seek rationales for it. And so we have, demonstrated in a lot of ways that events don't move the stock market. and we don't think events move the social mood. And if you look at history over the long term, the really great events, the really positive events, the European Union, things like that, they come right near the ends of these long-term stock market advances. And the really bad events come near the ends and after the long-term and large degree stock market drops.
That is an interesting observation. So does that explain why we had such a boom after World War II? Because we were in a war, and all of a sudden, we're not. And not only were we not in a war, but we were the winners of that war. Is that why things perked up after that?
Well, things perked up after that because the trend toward negative mood that was huge from 1929 to 1933 or 1932. It also set in motion a bunch of social effects that ended up culminating in war. And by the time the war had started, the social mood was already beginning to improve. And it continued to improve all the way, through 1945 and onward into the 1960s, late 1960s.
Is that is that worldwide, or is that just our country?
Well, that's looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Okay.
But the Dow Jones Industrial Average is a reasonable proxy for what's going on in the world, and most recently, as we showed in our studies on globalization, world stock markets have become more correlated, and so we think that social mood has become more synchronized across the world.
You use that phrase, swinging for the fences. I think that's an absolute marvelous phrase.
Thank you. The SWOT index that I came up with there is not an exact acronym, but it's close, and it's a pretty good, catchy name for that index, which is very simple. Actually, it's just the sum of average annual strikeouts and home runs. And when you plot that, it's since 1940, it's a dead ringer for the PPI adjusted. Producer Price Index adjusted Dow Jones Industrial Average. That's adjusted for a measure of inflation, and you see this amazing correlation there, and baseball performance fluctuating in near synchronization with the stock market. That's pretty amazing.
Is the theory laid out in the big book I was just having fun with, the Robert Prechter book?
It is, and that book is, the first few chapters are a great introduction into what we think is going on with financial behavior, and subsequently economic behavior. The economy generally lags the stock market.
So what is the catalyst, what is the fuel behind it? Is it the social world? Is it show business? I mean, do we sometimes, like when the Beatles came over to America, all of a sudden everybody was happy? It seemed like, anyway, after the Kennedy assassination, everybody was sad, and now the Beatles and everybody's happy.
Yeah, well, this gets back to the event-driven hypothesis again. We don't think the events are causing these things. We think the events are a product of the social mood trend, and that is...
I can see that.
Yeah, it began deep back in our evolution, and we think it's related to the herding impulse, and it's basically that people under conditions of uncertainty don't have the information they need to make decisions, and so they default to herding, which means look around and see what the people around you are doing, and then because maybe they know.
I have a copy. It's huge. The Socionomic Theory of Finance. It's written by Robert Prechter. You can have the copy that was sent to me. The rest of us would have to go online to buy it. What is a good website you can send us to learn more, Alan?
Socionomics.net. And there's a lot of information there. You can watch videos. You can see summaries of what we do, and you can get a good grounding in socionomic theory if you want to learn more about it. We also have 2 new books, Socionomic Studies of Society and Culture and Socionomic Causality in Politics, which you can find on Amazon right now.
Okay, very good. Alan Holt, thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
We'll be right back.
Yo, I'm Chris Foster. President Trump's former campaign manager faces criminal charges coming out of a Russian election meddling investigation. Fox's John Decker.
Paul Manafort and a business associate, Rick Gates, surrendered to authorities in federal court this morning. Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway.
The president has said everybody's fully cooperating and we'll let these investigations, there are 3 of them, one in the House, one in the Senate, run by Mr. Mueller and his very expansive large team of attorneys.
Manafort and Gates are the first individuals charged by special counsel Robert Mueller as part of his investigation into Russia's meddling in the 2016 election.
President Trump tweets, "Sorry, but this is